Hello, it's me, RJB, live here on YouTube TV for RJB's Starcraft YouTube casts. Now we have the introduction. I never feel good on these introductions, but now that we have the introduction itself out of the way, let's get rolling. And are you ready to rumble or not? Because today I've got a match between none other than 1588 Trisha, who is considered to be a pretty damn good 1 versus 1 player, although I am not sure where to rank him amongst all of the other 1 versus 1 players. But as of what I've seen, as of yet, I would place him somewhere along the ranks of JH, aka Voss, probably a little bit below Voss, although I do have to admit Trisha has some pretty good highs. But his most of the time he just hits an average that is a little bit below his high, so he isn't that consistent in that regard. But he's a very good player. Now you might be wondering, who is this barcode LILI77? It is none other than one of the fastest map players in Korea, known as LuckYBack. And this is a series played near the end of January, I think about the 19th or the 18th, closer to the middle of January actually. And this is set up a couple of games between these two players that I honestly already wanted to cast before, but I didn't get to it. Because I know that whenever LuckYBack plays 1 versus 1, it is honestly exciting and a treat to watch because he is so good and he plays really smart. So he starts off with the +1 command center. Right after the depot finishes, of course. Then 2 barracks, which I am sure will proceed to be either 3 or 4 barracks in total. Because he's got to catch up on his unit count after he goes for the very risky +1 command center as a start. Trisha, on the other hand, starts off with a Nexus. Then a Forge, pylon in the choke, gateway, cannon in the choke. And then proceeds to scout with 2 probes. Most of the time people scout with a single probe, so they get a little bit more economy going. But because already went for that very early +1 Nexus, I think he can afford to. But he's making a mistake here because he's scouting just the entrances. He was already expecting to be seeing units in the chokes. That's why he's scouting only the entrances, and he's trying to cut some corners to gain himself a little bit of an advantage. But by forcing himself to scout just the entrances, he is delaying the time that he will find LuckYBack. Though I don't think it will make much of a difference because both players have extended the duration or have moved forward or backwards, how do you want to call it, have moved backwards the timing for having their first units out on the map. So even if they do find each other a little bit earlier, there is no combat potential in either of these two players because they're just purely focusing on getting their worker counts up. The worker counts are pretty much even at the moment, and I assume they will remain about even for the remainder of the game. Trisha starts off with a very early cybernetics core, followed by a Citadel of Dune. I don't see a robotics facility yet. He did manage to find LuckYBack's base, but LuckYBack snipes the probe before it really gets any information whatsoever. But I do suspect that Trisha knows that LuckYBack probably went for something that is slightly out of the ordinary. Otherwise, the marine count would have been higher. So this is more of a situation where, because you have a lack of seeing units, you can assume that minerals that would usually be spent on those units has been spent elsewhere. Another Zealot comes in trying to get information, but he already sees that there's 2 depots there in the front. And that Zealot will never be able to get past all these marines. So he isn't even bothering, he's just walking back and forth getting information. LuckYBack now chasing the Zealot away. But of course the Zealot won't die because Trisha just keeps pulling it back to his base. Factory already on the way for LuckYBack. No upgrade in the Academy. He's on 2 gas and he's just very slowly progressing forward. He's now chasing that Zealot all the way to the other side of the map. Trisha preemptively throws down a couple more cannons just in case LuckYBack is planning on using medics and stim upgrade to stim down the cannons here in the front. There another, oh, I thought it was a cannon, but it's a pylon. Regardless, he's got 2 robotics facilities up. There's a support bay on the way as well. I don't see a Templar's archive, so that means we can safely deduce that Trisha is going for Reavers. Otherwise, of course, he would have had that Templar's Archive out already. And considering that he doesn't, it only leads us to one option. LuckYBack is one of the players who likes to play on a very heavy Marine count to defend himself against the Protoss drops. So he's adding on 2 more barracks and of course adding on the engineering bay as well. So we can get turrets, but also so he can get those weapon upgrades for the Marines. He has Stim upgrade is finished, got range on the way, siege mode also on the way, starport has finished there. So I assume we'll be seeing some raids. Raids are great to defend against shuttles. Always great to have that on the side. Just in case you want to fight against a shuttle and your Marines are out of the equation or incapable of reaching the shuttle, it's good to have a Wraith out. Or in case you're fighting against Reavers with Zealots. In that case, you want to take down the shuttle with the Wraith, because the Zealots and the Reavers cannot attack the Wraith, and it prevents Reaver Shuttle Micro. So High Templars are now on the way though. He has Psionic Storm on the way as well. Dark Templars being produced as well. Probably to clear out the middle of the map and the sides here. Because it does look like LuckYBack is planning on getting side vision with his Marines. He's already sending one out here to the side, so he has some vision there. He's using his scan to get himself information on the layout of Trisha's base and on the progression of Trisha's tech. Trisha has now finished his shuttle with 2 Reavers. 2 more Reavers have finished there as well. Oh wait, was a single Reaver finished there? 2 more shuttles are now on the way. He's preparing his second drop. Maybe he's going for one big drop in one go. There comes the scan from LuckYBack. He sees the progression. He sees the double robo. He sees the Reaver there on the low ground. Sees the shuttle. Sees that the shuttle hasn't left yet, which I assume makes it very clear for LuckYBack that Trisha is going for at least a 3 shuttle drop for his first drop, or maybe a double drop. Right, double shuttle drop it is. He's going for triple shuttles. Even though we could have waited a little bit longer and gone for the triple shuttles, he gets spotted out by this Marine here on the top side. Moving back and forth. This Dark Templar now taking that one out. Stargate also has finished for the Corsairs. He's picking a skeleton for carriers here on the side. So I assume he's going straight into carriers after he finishes, after he deals some damage with the drops. Alright, Reavers have unloaded on the low ground. Marines are going down rather quick, but the raids here at the top are doing exactly what they were made for, taking down shuttles and taking down Reavers from the safety of the air, where Scarabs cannot hurt them. Another shuttle, this time flying over the western side of the map, going down to the southern side, to the western side of LuckYBack's base. LuckYBack does have some Marines ready to intercept, but the Marines have moved away. Thus, this shuttle is going to make it all the way. Will it get its storms off on those SCVs? LuckYBack pulling his SCVs off of the minerals. There come the storms. He's killing a bunch of Marines. That's about 14 SCVs there. Not as big of a pickup as I thought it would be with 3 Templars inside the shuttle. But LuckYBack gets away with a little bit of luck. As his name implies, he's got the luck on his back. And barely loses any of his SCVs. Although he is now behind by about 22 workers on Trisha. But considering the fact that LuckYBack is just planning to be turtling and not planning to be attacking within the foreseeable future, that's all alright. It's alright to be behind on worker count at this stage in the game. But it does push him back into a corner a little bit, because it's going to be a little bit harder to defend himself. Given that now he can build less buildings, produce less units, it all snowballs a little bit. So now Trisha is going for a double drop. 2 drops at the same time from 2 different locations. There are pretty much no units here within the drop path to intercept. He's changing the direction a little bit to go in from a little bit higher, which I'm not sure is the best idea. This shuttle here gets shut down. The shuttle here going in now from the other side. LuckYBack, not yet. LuckYBack responds. Will he get the shuttle taken? The shuttle goes down. Templars on the low ground. Templar doesn't get a storm off. Another Templar. And he snipes all the Templars before they can get a single storm off. That's great target firing and accuracy from LuckYBack there. More Templars have unloaded. He splits up his Marines. Dodges the storm. The second storm does hit some, but in the end, no serious losses suffered here. A drop happened? No. It's on the minimap I see something blue, but I assume it's just the mineral patch. Yeah, that was confusing. I thought I saw something blue there, but there's nothing blue there. Dark Templar still there on the side. pylons being thrown down here in the front to start cannons on the middle. Another drop already flying over the map. That's drop number 4, and it's only 9:50 minutes in 9:50 into the game. This time there's only a single Templar in. Oh, 2 Templars, 3 Zealots. But once again, flying over the path that those Marines can stim into the shuttles, and a very quick response there from LuckYBack. Both shuttles go down. The Corsairs somehow managed to not take any of the focus away from the shuttles, which is quite interesting. Usually the Corsair takes the focus away from the shuttles. This time around it did not. Carriers, the Stargates for the carriers have finished. As predicted. Carrier interceptor range also on the way. Cybernetics core number 2 has finished. He's got armor upgrades on the way first. Because armor upgrades also help with flying your shuttles in. Because shuttles do take less damage from the armor. Sending his Marines out into the middle to take care of these cannons here before they can finish. But at the same time, a drop is going to be flying in. But LuckYBack already has Marines ready there to intercept. And one of the shuttles goes down. Corsair goes down as well. There's no Templars left inside the shuttles. Cannons here have been cleared out. But the cannons here in the back are still alive. Now unloading the shuttle just to make sure that those Zealots at least get something done. AKA killing those Zealots there on the low ground. Cannons being made here on the side as well. It looks like Trisha is planning to get a full contain here on LuckYBack. But LuckYBack is not planning on giving him any time whatsoever. Even though he's only 57 SCVs, he's already moving out to attack. Because now he can just circumvent these cannons here on the side, completely ignore them. There's a single Dark Templar there in the mix, taking down some of those units, but at the moment he's ignoring them. And before the carriers have finished, he's planning on dealing significant damage here to Trisha. He's not planning on giving Trisha any time, so this is a really great timed attack from LuckYBack. He knows now is the time, because those carriers are eating up a lot of supply space, and they are not yet finished. A lot of them are still on the way. A couple of them has finished, a couple of them are also close to finishing. But it already looks like LuckYBack is hammering at the front door. Uses his scan, Dark Templars now going down. Trisha is caught in a very unfavorable position. If Trisha had been capable of hitting any of those drops, after the first initial drop that he hit, he would have been able to slow down LuckYBack just enough to get those carriers finished in time. But now it's looking like LuckYBack has the upper hand here because he's on the counterattack. And there's not much Trisha can do in this particular situation. He's trying to buy himself time, but the carriers have not yet all finished. Although they are only a couple of seconds away, they still have to make interceptors. Now by the time the interceptors have finished, I assume that LuckYBack, who is a very, very fast tank pusher, as you can see, all the way here has cleared out this entire section. And he's about to progress even deeper in. He's a very fast tank pusher, and by the time the intercept is finished, he will have progressed significantly. His worker count is going up a little bit once again. He threw down a couple of factories here purely for Goliaths. And he's switching over to just making Goliaths because he already has a sufficient amount of tanks. Pushing forward a turret line as well. Turrets are great against interceptors and of course also great against Dark Templars. But this turret here in the back has to finish if he wants to take care of those Dark Templars. Dark Templars are buying Trisha some time, but Trisha losing pylons is getting supply stuck here. So very slowly pushing forward, loses his last robotic, loses the Reaver as well. Carriers are still producing their interceptors, not yet finished. Interceptor production is honestly quite slow. It's not as fast as you would think. So even after the carriers finish, there is a little bit of a window of time before they become effective. And considering more Goliaths come streaming in and turrets are there on the back behind those tanks, the interceptors are not having a great time. Interceptors also do not yet have weapon upgrade, I think. Yeah, no weapon upgrade on the interceptors yet. Weapon upgrade is not even on the way because Trisha is focused elsewhere. Or did weapon upgrade just finish for the interceptors? So he's got 10 carriers now, but Goliaths and turrets are slowly creeping into Trisha's base. Can Trisha make a comeback here, or is he forced to sit and slowly die? At the moment it's looking like most of his interceptors are dying quicker than he can take down turrets and Goliaths. So the game is looking very good for LuckYBack here. And very bad for Trisha. And honestly, I have to admit, this is an amazing push here from LuckYBack. He started the push at about 11 minutes in before he even finished his base, and his economy wasn't looking all that good. But by using the scans, he recognized he had an opportunity and took the opportunity immediately. is quite reminiscent of a game played by BrainGod against Hilltank, where BrainGod also recognized with the use of scans that now was the time to strike. And this is why I think one of the things that differentiates the absolute top level 1 versus 1 players in the Korean fastest map scene from just the top level slightly below it. Because these top level players will use all the information they have and immediately formulate an answer that is adequate. And in this case, it is a game-winning answer here for LuckYBack, because I don't see a comeback here for Trisha. Trisha is trying his hardest. He's fighting valiantly, dealing a lot of damage to the Goliaths and the turrets there, but more turrets are being thrown up by LuckYBack really rapidly, facilitated by his 370 APM. Trisha's APM has dropped quite a bit because honestly there's not that much APM in making interceptors and controlling your carriers, so that's completely understandable. Plus he's being pushed back bit by bit, which also limits his ability to spend his minerals quite significantly, constantly getting supply stick as he's losing pylons and forced to make new ones in the back. He's trying his hardest, but there are more Goliaths coming in. Goliaths focus firing on the carriers. We can see the health bars dropping for the carriers rather rapidly. And now he decides to push further in, focusing on the interceptors at the moment. The carriers, they're safe up on the hill. He's gonna need another scan if he wants to attack the carriers directly. But honestly, the turrets that are up here at the top are taking care of the interceptors so quick with the assistance of the Valkyries also hanging there at the top. Valkyries are amazing against interceptors. Goliath's now focusing directly at the carriers. Carriers going down rather quick because of the upgrades that he has. 1-1-1. And here we have, I wish I could see, but interceptors being in production is preventing me from clicking and seeing the upgrades. Wish I could see the upgrades, but I can. But I assume 3-3 upgrades are on the way. But this goes to show that sometimes having just bigger numbers is way better than having superior upgrades. Because he's on 0-0 for his air, 1-1-1 for his ground, as opposed to, I think, 1-2-2 for Trisha's air upgrades. And Trisha here loses the first game with only 16 minutes from an amazing counter push from LuckYBack, who honestly displayed a supreme display of talent and skill here, purely with his timing and insight. Even playing at 426 APM there near the end, really showing us that he is capable of just playing at maximum speed without sacrificing control and precision and decision making. So precision, decision making, control, and multitasking displayed at the highest level you can possibly imagine for fastest map. And yeah, LuckYBack takes home the first game. Honestly, a really impressive game here from LuckYBack. I was expecting really good games from LuckYBack, but I wasn't expecting a game this good. Trisha played quite well. It didn't really work out, mostly because LuckYBack was just responding really quickly to all the dropships. The shuttles specifically was responding to them really quickly and didn't give Trisha the chance to really ever deal economic damage. A lot of players in LuckYBack's situation, though, would have sat in their base passively and not gone for that counterattack. And LuckYBack saw the opportunity, saw the chance, and didn't hesitate a single second and immediately went for the counterattack during the window of time of carrier production for Trisha. That's just a final note. Always keep your eyes out, always keep scanning, and keep getting information and try to find an option of what you can do at that moment to gain an advantage, just like LuckYBack did here. Anyway, let's go for game number 2. So for game number 2 between LuckYBack and Trisha, we have LuckYBack playing the Zerg, the blue Zerg, and he has a really good Zerg, so this should be exciting to watch. He's one of those few players who can manage to beat 4-5-8 with Zerg multiple times in a row, not once, but multiple times in a row. So do keep in mind, LuckYBack is honestly one of the best 1 versus 1 players in Korea for fastest map. For comparison, let's take a look at Gold SCV and JH. LuckYBack is a full tier above those two players. And JH and Gold SCV are both really good players, as we've seen in the past on this channel, where they have both displayed really high levels of play on fastest map. It was honestly impressive from both players. And now just imagine that LuckYBack is a tier above that. However, being a tier above that does not mean you're unbeatable. And I think Trisha does have what it takes to take some games of LuckYBack. I really do think he's got what it takes. And given that the matchup right now is Protoss versus Zerg, which is inherently in favor of Trisha, I do see this as an opportunity for Trisha to take home a win over LuckYBack. We start with a +1 Nexus, and also do keep in mind both players pick their races. There comes the Forge, but he's not choking. Goes for the scout, starts off scouting the mid spot first, because I assume he thinks that if LuckYBack was right next to him, he would have already been scouted by an Overlord. And LuckYBack does the exact same thing. He's already scouted the northern spot there on the top side. So he just goes for spot number 12 at the northern middle of the map. Top middle of the map. And they both find each other rather quick. 2 gateways being added on for Trisha. Start off with a pretty early gas. Probe here just gathering information. Drone returning back to base to get that sunken in the choke. And honestly, this is a quite interesting detail here. He used the drone with which he's going to make... Wow! An even more interesting detail is he's not even making a sunken inside of his choke. Because he scouted the information here. He scouted the base that Trisha has. And he saw that there are no gateways out yet. So he delays his first sunken in order to get 2 hatcheries before the first sunken. Usually you only have this single hatchery and this one before your first sunken. But he added another one and put more drones on his minerals, which is an interesting detail because he knows that he can do it. He knows he wasn't in any immediate risk thanks to that very early drone scout. That's an interesting detail, and that does net him a very small economic gain that he otherwise wouldn't have had. So always important to always keep reading your opponent. As I've already said last game, keep reading your opponent and deduce what your options are. So 2 Zerglings here placed right in between the pathways. Smart detail as well, keeps those zealots out. Although I do doubt either of these zealots would have made it through with 2 Sunkens here blocking their path. They probably would have died right around here if they were to walk through. This would be the point where they would die, maybe here. So they would barely die. Creep colony being put here in the front. He's going to try to push some Sunkens forward so we can prevent this from happening here in the front. It now becomes Trisha's job to try to prevent this Sunken from ever finishing, or to prevent this drone here from ever finishing a creep here in the front. I'm not sure if this Sunken reaches the cannon there. It doesn't reach. Just barely outside of the range. And LuckYBack is going to try to go for it. Going to try to get the creep colony down. Not sure if he will get it. Trisha is responding quite nicely. I want to look at their builds, but this is quite important because if LuckYBack manages to prevent this cannon from finishing in time, he can honestly push this cannon line back. But it doesn't look like it will happen. This cannon is firing on the Sunken. Zealots are taking down the Sunken as well. And honestly, it looks like LuckYBack didn't succeed in pushing back the cannon line here, which means that now Trisha can get his Reavers, his robotic facilities specifically, up here on the middle of the map and start a Reaver push from the front. LuckYBack went for another hatchery and a very early Hydralisk Den. And that Hydralisk Den being so early is honestly a really good timing, because it looks like Trisha already has a Reaver on the way, Shuttle already finished, Tempest Archive on the way as well, Shuttle speed there also being upgraded. At the moment he's not adding on any robotics facilities here in the front. Probe goes down by accident. I didn't expect to be seeing that one, but it happened nonetheless. Another probe being pulled there to the front. Probe also going to the side because he wants to get pylons here on the side and possibly some cannons as well, so he can see if LuckYBack is sending out overlords with units in them. It's a little bit of a defensive countermeasure here for Trisha, just in case LuckYBack is going to try to be sneaky and cheeky very early on. With Overlord Transportation and Overlord Speed upgrade, Hydralisk lags on the way. You always want to get your lags first, because range is not that important if you cannot stick to your enemy. And the goal is to stick to your opponent, because the shuttle is quite fast. You want to be able to catch the shuttle, so you get speed upgrade first and range upgrade second. He's fishing for an opening, but there's no opening yet here in the front. Although he can sneak by, but I don't think sneaking by will gain him all that much of an advantage, because he's facing a Reaver shuttle drop. So his main goal is defending against that at the moment. He's got a lot of Overlords spread out over the sides. Zergling spread down here on the bottom side. There's a very small opening here, but I don't think Trisha is going to make use of that. Because honestly, I don't think he knows that there's a small little window here, because he cannot see what we're seeing. And they burrow up just in time. That's actually honestly amazing, which means that this shuttle, even though the timing was just pure coincidence, this shuttle has not spotted the Zergling there. So Trisha does not know that the Zergling can see the shuttle, but it's a two-shuttle attack from two separate directions. And oh, he even burrowed his own Hydralisk, but it kind of failed. Another drop coming in from the top side, 2 Templars in that one. Will LuckYBack save his drones, or will he lose his... Oh, ouch, 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 ouch. Yeah. So about 20, maybe 25 drones going down there for LuckYBack. He had the right idea. Even surprised burrowing his Hydralisks to be cheeky, but it kind of backfired. Trisha already has Zealot lags, that's interesting. But he's forced to pull back because the number of Hydralisks is honestly quite high. Another drop already flying in, and there are no units here inside of the base to intercept the Templars. Can LuckYBack keep his drones alive? Loses another 10 of his drones, and that's quite painful. There's another Templar inside of that shuttle, and honestly it looks like LuckYBack is trying to be too aggressive, trying to be too flashy, trying to be too inventive. And is honestly backfiring quite nastily here. This is a lot of downed mining time. A lot of dead drones as well. Drop comes back in. There's a Templar inside that shuttle. He's avoiding the Hydralisks, and he's just flying back and forth to be annoying. He's not planning on really dropping his Templar there. But now he is. He's going in, sees a window. Storm comes down. Storm comes down on a heavy side of the drones. Kills about 6 drones. And another painful hit there. Trisha honestly doing everything by the book. Another drop coming down already. Kills another 6 or 7 of those drones. And LuckYBack really stretched himself too thin there. He tried to do some cool stuff, but all the cool stuff backfired really hard. I mean, I get the idea of burrowing the Hydralisk so that the shuttle will be right on top when you unburrow the Hydralisks, giving the Protoss no time to dodge the Hydralisks, but the timing was a little bit off and it didn't work. It sounds smart, but it looks to be quite hard in execution in practice when you're trying to put it to use. So all Trisha has to do now is just keep sending in his drops. And then given the fact that he's got so many options to go from, top side, west side, west side, bottom side, 3 options with a lot of variance in between to fly his shuttles in from. LuckYBack does have vision on every single side, but it's all about response time, and there comes another shuttle. Shuttle turns around, flies away. Is he going to wait for another shuttle, or is he going to just try to fly in over the exact same path? Well, he's going to wait for more shuttles. It looks like a lot of robotic facilities finishing on the middle of the map. The supply is on 151. He's got 76 probes there. LuckYBack all the way back on 54. He hasn't made a single Hydralisk in the entire period of time. Now Hydralisks are spawning though, because his drone count is up quite high again. Which means the economy is now booming. So he's got 3 sides covered, but his entrance, his front is honestly quite exposed, quite small, and I think that Trisha knows. The drop is going to come in from the bottom side, but once again it gets spotted out by the Zerglings and the Overlord, which means all the Hydralisks are now moving in position to intercept the shuttles. He splits them up, tries to play nice, tries to do it nice. Oh, he manages to dodge with one. Another one is going to go in. Reaver on the low ground. Reaver gets a shot off. Templar there as well. Templar doesn't get a storm off. And no drones were lost, except for a single one that I saw dying there. Another shuttle trying to find its way in, but it gets scared away. But the shuttle now coming in from the top side, while all the Hydralisks are on the bottom side. Shuttle gets scared away. He turns around. He doesn't want to waste it. That's great awareness and control there from Trisha. Can he make his way in? He makes his way in, and there comes the Storm. Storm comes down on all the drones. Because LuckYBack was focusing on the shuttle there on the bottom side, and he ends up losing his drones. Once again, 14 drones this time around. Their frontal attack is happening at the same time. A lot of zealots come streaming in with the assistance of now 4, but 5 Reavers. But the Reavers are tripping out, going to the sides instead of attacking the front here. That's some great Reaver AI there. Like, he A-moved them forward, but then it just starts walking all the way in the wrong direction. Another drop here, trying to go in. Storms the Hydralisks. Kills a couple of Hydralisks. Picks up the Templar once again. And the shuttle flies away from the Hydralisks. Hydralisk on the chase. Front has gone down here. This is honestly a really well-played PvZ here from Trisha. His base is still quite small, but he's doing all the correct things here. And LuckYBack is having a really hard time holding his own here. The game has really been snowballing, and I also have to admit LuckYBack has been holding himself quite well, but he's been losing too many drones in his entire portion of the game. Once again, shuttle turns around, flies away. Shuttle goes in from the top side, but the shuttle once again gets scared away by a couple of Hydralisks. Shuttle now coming in from the bottom side, but that shuttle goes down. Shuttle now coming in from the top side. It is unopposed, but it goes down once it drops the Templar. Templar storms on top of the Hydralisk. Another frontal push where the real stuff is happening. Because we've got 8 Reavers, 9, 10, 11 Reavers pushing the front with the Scarabs, and the Scarab upgrade damage is on the way. And this looks to be the end of the game. And just for the sake of seeing it, he splits up 2 shuttles, going in for 2 shuttles at the same time. One of them gets intercepted, the other one gets intercepted as well. Both shuttles turning back around, but now this shuttle is going in from the top side. This one goes in unopposed as the Zealot takes away the focus, and there come the double storms on top of the drones, and the drones once again do go down. All the Hydralisks here. Oh, he's trying some Reaver micro, Mutalisk micro on the Reavers, but doesn't really work out because he's focused on so many separate things at the same time. And LuckYBack calls the GG, and that is 1-1 between LuckYBack and Trisha. 1 win for both players. Honestly, a really impressive PvZ here from Trisha. Great single shuttle control. Instead of just flying your shuttles in blindly and praying to the gods above that the Hydralisks do not take down the shuttle, you can also micro the shuttles and turn them around and just fish for another opening and keep fishing for another opening. And if you're really good at multitasking, you send in 2 or 3 shuttles from 3 separate directions and control all of them at the same time, dancing around those Hydralisks, preventing those shuttles from dying until you find an opening to go for those drones, just as Trisha did, while simultaneously setting up the frontal push with the Reavers here. I really like this PvZ, this Protoss vs Zerg concept that Trisha has going on here. It looks really strong, really solid. Although part of it did come down to LuckYBack missing a beat fairly early on and losing most of his drones very early on. If that hadn't happened, this game might have turned out to be completely different. And the first drop is always one of the hardest ones to hold. And if you hold the first one, it becomes progressively easier because your economy becomes bigger and bigger, your unit count becomes bigger and bigger. Hence, it becomes easier and easier to defend against those shuttle drops. Nonetheless, let's go for game number 3 and see how that one pans out. So for game number 3, we have once again a Zerg versus Protoss. Both players on the exact same races. Trisha on the Protoss that we're looking at right here. On the red Protoss. And LuckYBack this time around on the blue Zerg. I'm going to speed up their first minute by a little bit. Just a little bit. Because we both already know what these players are going to do. I have high hopes for LuckYBack this time around. Oh, wait, he's not going for the choke. So I was wrong. I had no idea what he was going to do. He's going for a chokeless Zerg. He's going for that big economic advantage over Trisha very early on. Trisha going for the +1 Nexus. but he places the Nexus in such a way that he can still make a second Nexus down here on the bottom side. So he might even go for the +2 Nexus a little bit further into the game. Goes for 2 gateways, exactly the same as last game. LuckYBack is the only one who's really mixing it up. Going for the second hatchery before his spawning pool. Maybe he's even going to be going for a third hatchery here. Before, yeah, that's a third hatchery. Why not? 3 hatcheries before his spawning pool. Overlord there, going to the bottom side. This Overlord scout at the top spot here. Didn't see anything, goes up to the hill so we can see anything enter the base. But this Overlord is not there in time, so... Did he see it? He didn't see it. Didn't see it there either. Oh, there, he spots it. He spots the probe. That means now, wait, 4 hatcheries? He went for 4 hatcheries before a spawning pool. This guy is absolutely insane. He honestly is absolutely insane. But it might work out. It might work out. The spawning pool is now on the way. Zealots haven't finished yet. They're finished now. But it's going to take at least the same amount of time for the spawning pool to finish up before those Zealots even arrive somewhere around this point. Or this point, you might say. Nonetheless, this entire 4 hatchery build that LuckYBack is doing is entirely facilitated by the fact that Trisha went for the +1 Nexus, which gives him a little bit of leeway in how many hatcheries he can get up safely. Well, I wouldn't call this safe. This cannon here in the front is quite a danger. But he will be able to take it down. He's trying to go for the probe. The probe gets phased to the Zealot because he clicked on the gas or minerals in his own base. That's a smart move to save the probe there. Quick reaction there from Trisha. LuckYBack now finally making his first sunken. Zealot's not going in for defense. Zerglings are on the way for LuckYBack. Maybe that's why he's not going in for the drones with those Zealots, but instead he's preserving them. Because he knows that if those Zealots die and the Zerglings come in for the counterattack, this is going to die as well. The cannons here in the front. A lot of Zerglings have finished up there. He's got gas on the way. Some 15 drones. He's making a Hydralisk den there in the top corner. Balling up his Zerglings. So he's got a sufficient amount of Zerglings to fight against those Zealots. Trisha still obediently making Zealots. Getting a Cybernetics core as well. Adding on another gas. Just very calmly and slowly. Oh, I wouldn't call it slowly. He's very calmly and steadily, that's the word, steadily progressing his intended strategy further and further into its progress, or into its stages, or phases, or if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. 23 drones now for LuckYBack, 29 probes for Trisha. So the economy is still somewhat in favor of Trisha, but the fact that LuckYBack has so many hatcheries this early into the game, he can make whatever he wants. He can make Hydralisks, he can make drones, he can make Sunkens, and he'll mostly be fine. So this is where that 4 hatcheries before the pool is paying off for LuckYBack. But it also means that Trisha can keep progressing all these cannons closer and closer towards the creep and box LuckYBack in and make robotic facilities here in the back for Reavers and start a Reaver push under the protection of cannons and Zealots and possibly Dragoons in the future as well. And creep on in and in on LuckYBack inch by inch. So Lara's finished there in the back. All the way in the back so that Trisha cannot see the lair. Usually people upgrade their main hatchery into the lair, which is a bit easier to scout in this specific scenario. So he's keeping that little bit of information that he has a lair. He's keeping that away from Trisha, making sure Trisha cannot see it. Support may finish here on the bottom side. Citadel of Doom as well. So Zealot speed lags are on the way. Reaver is on the way as well, being warped in. Another robotic facility being made there as well. This is just a very strong block of cannons here, and it's going to take a lot of Hydralisks from LuckYBack if you ever want to take that down. He's trying to get something down, trying to snipe the probe, but the probe stays alive. Which means Trisha hasn't been slowed down yet. LuckYBack tries to fish for an opening, but he cannot physically get close to that probe. So in the meantime, it looks like he's going for something else. He's going for a Spire. It's honestly a great choice, going for a Spire, because it's very unlikely that Trisha will have enough gas to make Dragoons. He's making mostly Zealots, and I think that LuckYBack knows that Trisha is going for mostly Zealots and Reavers. So he'll only be capable of attacking on the ground, and Mutalisk will be a great answer into that, but it also looks like... Well, Trisha, LuckYBack made 11 Mutalisks. I was about to comment on the fact he had a very low amount of gas, but that's purely because he's been making Mutalisks with that gas. Hydralisk range now on the way after he finished his Hydralisk speed upgrade. More Sunkers being placed there on the side to buy himself time against Trisha's advance. And either these Mutalisks are going for the main Nexus, or they're going to kill those Reavers, and he's going for the main Nexus. Completely unseen, unopposed. Trisha cannot physically prepare anymore. Even if he were to see it right now, those cannons would never finish in time. I think he knows something is up because he's making cannons there. He's going for the attack here in the front. A lot of Hydralisks there in the back. Zealots there as well. But I don't think it's going to be enough, because a lot of Zealots are still there tripping out. Mutalisks have arrived on the scene. Mutalisks now hammering away at the Nexus and the probes. Actually, they're just going for the probes. He's completely ignoring the Nexus itself. Now he's going for everything at the same time. Mostly going for probes, but the attack here in the front is happening quite hard. He went for the hatchery, but he couldn't physically get the hatchery. It was kind of a last-ditch effort, knowing that those Mutalisks here were hammering away on his Nexus. And Trisha calls it GG. 8 minutes in. And LuckYBack very decisively and quickly puts an end to this attempt from Trisha to turn this into a 2-win series for Trisha. Instead, it now becomes a 2-win series for LuckYBack. Trisha drawing on the short end of the stick. He was doing the right things, but it's hard to predict Mutalisk to be out this early when you're pushing the opponent in. And you would expect the opponent to defend with those Mutalisks instead of going for the offense. But LuckYBack is a little bit smarter than that. He knows that, yeah, it's pretty early on in the game. My opponent has been spending a lot of minerals on these cannons here, a lot of minerals on those Zealots. He might just be in a position where he doesn't have a lot of cannons at his Nexus. Lo and behold, there were no cannons whatsoever. So very quick win for LuckYBack. And it's time for game number 4. Who will win? Who will lose game number 4? Gonna be interesting. So stay tuned. So game number 5 between LuckYBack and Trisha. Game number 4 between LuckYBack and Trisha. Not game number 5. LuckYBack took home a very easy and quick Zerg versus Protoss win in the last game these two played. Trisha got caught off guard with his pants down on his ankles while he was sitting on the toilet, getting shot with a crossbow right in the chest by LuckYBack, who flew in some Mutalisks outside the vision that Trisha had and surprised him with something he wouldn't like to be surprised by, and took home the win. Trisha, I have to admit, played it very well, but it didn't work out for him. So yeah, who is going to win? LuckYBack or Trisha? That's the big question that we have before ourselves right now. Because if LuckYBack wins, then I think he wins the series. But if Trisha wins, then we're going to have another game in this series, and we're going to game number 5. But right now, game number 4. Trisha once again on the Protoss, LuckYBack once again on the Zerg. And it looks to be a repeat of last game, because LuckYBack is going for no choke once again. And I really like when a Zerg does a no choke and they manage to pull off the win without a choke. But do note, this is mostly facilitated by the fact that Koreans never really do a mid build as Protoss, because it tends to always fail. And doing a mid build as Protoss delays your tech progression significantly. So he's scouting with 2 drones at the same time. He wants to get that information really quickly. He wants to know whether Trisha is next to him or not. Or maybe it was an accident that he sent out 2 drones at the same time. What is he up to? He sent them to quite a funny location there. I've got no idea what he's up to here. No idea whatsoever. Regardless of that, he made his pool a little bit earlier this time around. He made a pool and then his 3rd hatchery. So he is not going for the exact same 4 hatchery risk as he did last time around, because I think he is assuming that Trisha is not planning on letting it happen again, because Trisha is going for 4 gateways right off the bat. After his Nexus, after his Nexus, going for 4 gateways right at the bat, which gives him more offensive firepower early on than if he had gone for 2 gateways like he did last time around. Forge already finished up. Hatchery number 4 is there. Drone is scouting. Another drone got pulled back to base, so I do think that that was just a mistake made by LuckYBack. He tried to click here, but clicked here with 2 drones instead of 1 by accident. This goes to show that even players of this level do tend to make some tiny mistakes. So there he starts his sunken quite late, but he knows that he didn't need it earlier. Important detail to note. If you keep your overlords here at the front, you can keep your creep colonies as just creep colonies until you see something walking through this passageway here. And then you start the sunken, and by the time that the units, in this case zealots, arrive here on the scene, your sunken here has finished. He's got his Zerglings out a little bit earlier this time around. I don't think Trisha was expecting that. But that probe is at the moment still safe because Zealots are arriving on the scene. Overlord is just there to keep vision. He went for 2 pylons instead of 1. So in case that 1 pylon goes down, there's still another one there to protect the cannons and power the cannons. He's going for a shield battery and a cannon. Interesting choice. Overlord of course, hanging there to keep vision. He made a hatchery inside the corner of Trisha's base. Alright, that explains why he had those drones out so early. I think he's going to try to make a lurker here. I think the creep spread should be about this far, so this might get spotted out. If Trisha is going to progress this tech section here a little bit further down, I think this should be the size, but this big. Maybe a little bit bigger. Anyway, fight happening here inside of LuckYBack's base. He doesn't have a lot of Sunkens, but he does have some Zerglings there to assist the fight. Another Sunken is there on the way. More Zerglings being morphed as well. These Zerglings are dealing, these Zealots are dealing a lot of damage here to LuckYBack. This might prove to hurt him quite a lot. He's microing back and forth. Zerglings really well, buying time for this creep colony to turn into a Sunken. More Zealots are on the way now. More Zealots streaming in from the base there as well. He's slowly pushing forward the pylons and the cannons there. Adding on more gas, adding on Seal of Adun for the Zealot speed. And it does look like LuckYBack comes out somewhat on top. I don't want to call it on top. He just manages to fight off Trisha's advances, which keeps LuckYBack's drone count low because all these Zerglings could have been drones. But he's making a lot of Zerglings here. He's making a lot of Zerglings. He's got Hydralisk speed finished up. He has Zergling speed as well. And he's going for the cannon instead of going for the Zealots. He goes for the probe. Alright, he goes for the probe. That's a good snipe. Buys himself a lot of time. Zergling staying alive as well. Great move to go from 2 directions at the same time and pulling back as fast as he can. Looks like the Zealots are gonna try to take down the Hydralisk then. Or he spotted the... he spotted this as well. Spotted that there in the bottom corner. Hydralisk then goes down, but now the Zerglings are going for the cannons, but there's Zealots at the cannons there, which means that that is failing as well. A lot of Hydralisk then already being made. LuckYBack is kind of hurting now, and Trisha is pulling off a really well played game. Trisha is this time around focusing on units instead of focusing on cannons and the reavers, and it's honestly working out really well for him because he keeps throwing out punches at LuckYBack, and LuckYBack keeps being slowed down, keeps losing his tech, keeps losing his Zerglings, but LuckYBack, though, is progressing quite slowly. He is going to lose this here on the bottom side, though. Dragoons have finished up for Trisha as well, which is going to make defending even harder for LuckYBack, because once those Dragoons arrive here on the scene, These hatchers here on the bottom side are at risk of dying. The Hylids then as well is at risk of dying. So LuckYBack is going to have to mass up very, very quickly. Which I'm not sure he can do because there's a lot of gateways here inside the base of Trisha. It's got 6 here on the top side, 5 here on the bottom side for 11 of total of 11 plus 3, so 14 in total. Facilitated by the fact that he's got 54 probes. It means his economy is booming. He's got a robotic facility on the way inside of his base as well. For the observer, I am sure. Units being sent across the map. LuckYBack is preparing himself for the defense, throwing down a couple of creep colonies, making Hylids as well. But will this be enough or will this be a dud? Dragoons going in, Dragoons focusing on the Overlords. Overlords going down, which means that LuckYBack is going to get supply stuck. But Hylids going in for the attack on the Zealots. Zealots with their speed running away. More Overlords going down. LuckYBack forcing Trisha back. Trisha is just regrouping because he's got superior supply count. A way superior supply count by 100 supply ahead over LuckYBack. And yeah, it looks like LuckYBack spread himself too thin by trying to go for this, which is a waste of minerals. And yeah, trying to force something here in the front. He did deny the probe, but it didn't really work out. So Hylids there standing in a ball. Mass of Zealots running and streaming in from all sides on the front side here. Dragoons as well. Dragoons firing free on whatever there is. Hylids fighting valiantly, getting microed backwards quite nicely. Most of the Zealots have gone down. Will this be enough for LuckYBack? LuckYBack kills all the Zealots. Now the Dragoons are at risk. The Dragoons actually are outnumbered, but more Zealots come streaming in from the base of Trisha. LuckYBack fights back those Dragoons, but now the Zealots are coming in as well, which means that LuckYBack is now getting pushed back once again. Finally finishes up some Overlords so he can start producing more Hylids, but now the Hylids are pushing back those Zealots because the Zealots are focusing on the Sunkens. Wait. If LuckYBack pulls off the micro here, he can extend the game a little bit longer. But the fact that Trisha's economy is so big and his base is so huge as well, I see this going in favor of Trisha, because Trisha can just keep throwing out more and more Zealots, Dragoons, and whatever, and even add on upgrades, because he's on 001. He's got level 1 weapon upgrade for his ground forces, which gives him an edge over LuckYBack, who's sitting at 0-0. But a lot of Hylids keep streaming out for LuckYBack here, but his drone count is so low, and his minerals keep hitting such low numbers. He's constantly hovering around 200 to 300 while constantly making more Hylids, while slowly also losing his Hylids count because he cannot replenish his Hylids fast enough. Once again, a stream of Sunkens going down here to those Zealots. More Zealots come streaming in from Trisha's base. A drop there coming in as well. There's a Reaver inside his shuttle. There's pretty much nothing there to oppose this Reaver shuttle. Zealots there tanking all the Sunkens. Reaver gets unloaded. Drones get pulled off the minerals. The Reaver gets loaded up. The Scarab hits nothing, but just the threat of this Reaver there being in range to attack those drones is enough to keep LuckYBack at bay. And this game is pretty much already over at this point, and I don't see a single window or possibility of LuckYBack making it back into this game. Trisha just has to keep throwing out attacks here at the front at LuckYBack. LuckYBack micros his Hylids back to his Sunkens once again. He honestly has held this really well for the amount of economy and the amount of production that he has. Great micro there. Reaver comes in. Reaver gets picked up. I always love the sight of that, although the Reaver does go down inside the shuttle. But another one, I want to say another one comes flying in, but it's mostly just Templars and Reavers, Templars and Zealots coming in over the front. And if you can just get in range of those drones, you can storm those drones and kill the drones. There comes the Templar, and game number 4 ends in a loss for LuckYBack. Just as the clock hanging behind me starts slamming the bell. Absolutely hate that clock. I hate it, because it keeps making that very annoying sound. But anyway, nonetheless, Trisha comes out on top in game number 4. And I very quickly have to check, because this was the last replay in this set. And if this ends on 2-2, it means that we don't have a clear conclusion of who the winner is. I'm going to very quickly check my replay files and see if there is a 5th replay between these two, or whether this is just 4 replays between these two players. So just give me a quick second and I'll look it up. Okay, so after looking at the replays that I've got of Trisha's autosave file, I've come to the conclusion that there is no game number 5. There are 5 replays though, but replay number 2 is a 2-second replay. Replay number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So sadly, we won't have a real conclusion between these two, but nonetheless, it should have been a very exciting set of matches to have beholded for us all, to have witnessed for us all, and to be entertained by. Maybe next time I want to do this replay, but it's a little bit short as a standalone replay, so I won't do that one next one. Couple ones against Sujung here, a couple of replays against Toki. I might cast this set sometime in the future. It's a set of 4 replays. It's gonna be fun as hell. And yeah, that aside, I'm calling this I'm calling an end to the video here. As I've already said, hope you enjoyed it. Hope the series was hype and exciting between these rather good 2 players. LuckYBack in particular, very exciting to watch, but really one of those players who likes to thread it on right in the edges. But I am rambling now, so I'm gonna end it here.